talking about personal branding, I like to teach my clients how to sell without selling. It's like, here I am. This is what I'm all about. Come and have it if you want. And if you don't, that's fine. Let's go and find somebody who wants it.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much bad press around sales being like, Kelly, do you want to buy this thing? You need to buy it.
You have to buy it today.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be available. Well, kind of is.
And yeah, I think sales has got a really bad press around it. So I'm here to make sales fun. I always say sales is easy if you just know how. That's the title of my book. And I don't think it's something that we should be scared of. I think it's something we should embrace. I think some people aren't actually looking for sales.
Or they don't want it for some reason, yeah?
But actually going out there and having the conversations, doing discovery calls, it seems more daunting. But I'm here to tell you it's not daunting. We don't need to be scared.
This episode is brought to you by the Travel Counsellors, the only franchise travel company in the UAE. If you're inspired to start a business like many of the guests we have on the podcast, love to travel, and the thought of planning dream bucket list holidays lights you up, then this could be the opportunity for you. This flexible business allows you to work from home, bonus, whilst Travel Counsellors provide the training, back office support, licensing, and access to industry-leading booking platform. If you're passionate about travel and have an entrepreneurial spirit and interested in joining a company that put care at the heart of everything that they do, then click the links in the show notes below. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Kelly Lundberg podcast. Today on the show, I've got Charlie Day. Now, I've met Charlie a few times. This is the first time I've had her on the podcast. Now, her mission is all about empowering women in particular. She said she works with men, but women in particular to start their own business, but to really focus on sales. Something I love talking about, that growth aspect. She really wants to help women to acquire the skills in order for them to have the business of their dreams and to build the same success and more that she has. So how do you build that business? How do you get more clients in? How do you get more leads? How do you close clients? That's some of the things that we're going to talk about on today's episode. So let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Charlie. It's great to have you.
I'm so excited.
I'd love to say thanks for flying in for this episode, but it's not technically true.
We could say that though. I would have flown to do this. This is so fancy.
I love it. But the reality is you're here on holiday as well. So
here with the kids.
I really appreciate you coming on to the Kelly Lundberg podcast and sharing a little bit about your story, the journey that you've been on, because I know your kind of underlying message is to empower more a woman in particular, financial independence, grow a business that they love and make money doing it. So I love today's topic is going to be around money, but branding and building your visibility in that sort of space as well. So why don't you give our viewers and listeners a little bit of a backstory as to who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I am Charlie Day and my business is called Charlie Day Sales. And I basically help people to make more sales in their business. I think female entrepreneurs in particular, but I mean, I work with men and women, but I find that female entrepreneurs in particular shy away from sales. And I'm here to make sales fun and make it something that's accessible for more. And actually, talking about personal branding, I like to teach my clients how to sell without selling. It's like, here I am. This is what I'm all about. This is the offering that I've got. Come and have it if you want. And if you don't, that's fine. Let's go and find somebody who wants it.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much bad press around sales being like, Kelly, do you want to buy this thing? You need to buy it.
You have to buy it today.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be available. Well, kind of is.
And yeah, I think sales has got a really bad press around it. So I'm here to make sales fun. I always say sales is easy if you just know how. That's the title of my book. And I don't think it's something that we should be scared of. I think it's something we should embrace. And I always say, if you look for sales, you'll find them. I think some people aren't actually looking for sales.
Or they don't want it for some reason. Yeah. Why do you think that might be?
I think it's a mindset thing because, money's bad, sales are bad. It's like updating your website, making pretty Canva images, that's all fun. But actually going out there and having the conversations, doing discovery calls, closing people down is less fun. It seems more daunting, but I'm here to tell you it's not daunting. We don't need to be scared. There's a really good, fun, nice way of doing it.
I love that. I think it's often, certainly from my own experience, having been in business for 20 years, that kind of cold sell approach I find really challenging, and I think my clients do. And so I guess maybe for someone who's starting out, what kind of advice or what sort of steps would you say for them to take?
My journey started back in 2011. I was 21 and I set up my own business. And I don't know if it was like my 21-year-old arrogance or what, but I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to open a business and everybody's going to come flocking and then I'm going to be a millionaire.
Oh my God, that totally sounds familiar. I was a couple of years older. I was 24 when I had exactly that. I'm going to start my business and everyone's going to know about me. And I was utterly bewildered next day that no one called me. And I was like, but the whole internet knows I've got a business.
Exactly. And, you know, I launched a theatre school for kids in my local area and I had worked out how many kids there were. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to facilitate, you know, the amount of people who want to come. I worked my absolute, are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Go for it.
Arse. I worked my arse off. Yeah, body part. I worked my arse off to get as many people as I could in, and I got 7. I'd hired this big, massive hall with a stage, the lighting, costumes for 30 kids. I thought I'd cap my first one at 30 just to make it a bit more manageable. Anyway, I got 7. I was massively out of pocket. I was so deflated. And I just thought, I'll do this workshop and then I'm going to sweep it all under the carpet and just forget about it and move on. And so I actually gave out 3 spaces because I was like, I can't do a show with 7, but could maybe do a show with 10. Gave out 3 spaces, did the whole thing. Anyway, long and the short of it was I only know how to go all in. So we had the best week. This show was amazing. The kids were great. And at the end of the week, every single parent was like, are you starting weekly classes? Because if you are, we'll sign up. And I remember I made a promise to myself in that moment. I was like, it's been this hard to get in front of 7 people. I'm going to keep on going, but I'm going to get really, really good at sales because I realized really early on that sales is what moves the ship forward. You know, without sales, we don't actually have a business at all. And so I haven't always been great at sales. I've learned on the job, but I've really applied myself to understanding more about the sales process and what I need to do, what habits I need to do on a daily basis to make sure that I'm getting more leads into my business, so I'm filling up my pipeline, having those conversations, so I'm nurturing and developing them in the middle, and then closing them down so they're actually buying. You know, you've got to be constantly doing all of those things, bringing the leads in the top, building that relationship in the middle, closing them down so they come out the end, but then we're upselling to them. So it's just like a vicious circle. And then we're marketing so that other leads bring in more leads for you, you know, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, all of the things, and just getting really, really good at that. If you break it down like that, it's so simple, but people make it complicated. I'm not sure why. So if you're just starting out, I reckon people's biggest problem is getting more leads into the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
So who are you looking for?
Yeah.
Where do they hang out? And what can you say to make them interested? They're the 3 things that you need to think. You need to figure out what works, and then you just need to rinse and repeat. Do it over and over again.
I loved how you mentioned just a little bit earlier on about habits that you do make sure that you're bringing in the leads. Can you share some of your habits?
Absolutely, yes. So sales is actually very boring. I mean, I love it, but it is boring. You've got to do the same activities over and over again to see the same results, and to see greater results, you do them more. So I have broken this down into what habits work for me. And I always say, Kelly, if you want to be in the top 2% of salespeople, you just need to do certain things over and over again, certain things that other people aren't prepared to do. And actually what happens if you get in the top 2% is that you are leading your industry, because actually you're separating yourself out from your competition. It doesn't matter what they're doing, because what you're doing is so much greater. So the habits that I do, following up every single day, I have some time for following up. Now, the fortune is in the follow-up. The average lead takes 7 follow-ups. Most people, I think, do 1 or 2 follow-ups, maybe 3, but most leads take 7 follow-ups. So if you're the one who's following up 7 times, then you're going to be winning. Lead gen every single day. I start 20 conversations every single day to get into sales situations. Call them 20 meaningful interactions. Again, by doing that, my sales has just gone up and up and up. I'm always closing people down. So, on Instagram, I might get into conversation and be like, hey, Kelly, you followed me. It's so lovely to chat to you. What are your biggest problems with sales at the moment? Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. It's very easy to get in the friend zone.
Yeah.
We don't want to get in the friend zone. So always be closing. ABC is we are having these conversations with the intention of selling. So know what your next step is. For me, it's getting on a discovery call or getting my sales associate on a discovery call. So I'm always pushing them towards that. So they're not just staying in the friend zone, be like, oh, well, since you asked, I've got this problem. Can you help me solve it?
Yeah.
And I find that
they constantly message you.
Thanks so much. It's just free advice on the internet. It is important to give out free value. And that's what Instagram and Facebook groups is great for. But we can't be doing that on an individualized basis.
Yeah.
It's not going to serve us.
It's something that I've heard from either clients or from people who are going to become clients. And I don't know what your thought is on this about locations. So they'll say, oh, there isn't the money here for clients to buy my product or service. Or I just think, what was it? I heard something the other day where it was about, this industry, no one's buying right now. Like, it was a real general assumption. And I was like, I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's location specific, but perhaps someone who's focused on sales, you tell me your thoughts on that. And you probably heard a million of them as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. No, everyone is buying all of the time. You only need to go to, I usually say Oxford Street, but the Dubai Mall to figure out that people are spending money. If people are not spending money with you, that's a you problem. They're still spending money. Have you made it important enough that they spend their money with you? It's usually a messaging problem because actually we want our thing to be so desirable that people find the money. And I'm not talking about getting into debt. Like, let's keep it totally above board. Like, I don't encourage people to get into debt, but, I work with adults. They are all adults, so they can choose how they spend their money. And I know that if you work with me, I can increase your sales in your business really quite quickly. So I don't feel bad about selling to you because actually the results that my clients get are phenomenal. I have people, 500 times their
investment,
sales. Through working with me. So I don't really feel bad about selling. If you do feel bad about selling your product, you need to look at that product and think, well, how can I make this an absolute no-brainer for people to buy? How can I make this something that people really want to buy, need to buy, are going to see results with? If people are worried about selling their product, you need to look at the product.
I always thought Alex Hormozi, do you follow him? And he had, this first one was $100 million offers.
Yes.
And he talks a lot about creating that offer that is so amazing that you're like, well, I have to take that because that is what's going to help me solve my problem or get my product out there or what have you. So I really like that. He also talks a lot about personal branding as well and kind of bringing that into your space. You mentioned in the sort of the first kind of minute, I was like, wow, okay, fabulous. We're talking about personal brand. But how you teach people to sell is through them.
Yeah. You've got to show up as your authentic self. Now, I didn't learn. I actually probably would have been really handy if I'd have met you, say 13 years ago and you'd have been like, Charlie, this is what you do. I'm like, oh, okay, brilliant. But I've sort of learned along the way just by being myself. This is who I am. I show up very much as myself. If my audience, if a member of my audience was here, they would tell you, I love Disney. I go to Disney every single year. I've got a neurodiverse 7-year-old. I drink an Americano at Costa. Tiny things that don't really matter.
Yeah.
But actually, they make people feel like they know you and they're part of like your gang.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing when I created that, but actually it served me massively. And now I've learned, that's personal branding.
It's got a name now.
Yeah, this really works. I think that people are scared to do it for some reason.
Yeah.
But actually, it's the easiest thing. It's just being yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What tips would you have for someone that's kind of starting out on their business journey and maybe like you and I had these great big ambitions going, everyone's going to call me and it's there. What would you do differently or what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think it's about For me, what's really worked with all of my businesses, so this is my 4th business, with all of my businesses, what's really worked is building a community. And I think that personal branding plays into that massively because actually I do this thing and I didn't even realize I did it. This is another thing. I like pose for pictures like this. And
I've seen them.
I know, yeah, well, exactly. It's become a thing. I didn't mean to do it. But now what's happened, and it's happened so much this week, I think it must be because it's half term, people post pictures on the internet of them doing the pose and tag me in it and go, I'm doing the Charlie Day.
I love it.
And it's not like I've coached people to do that.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's become a thing. I mean, I started a Facebook group. It used to be called the Entrepreneurs Growth Club when I started out, but now it's called Sales is Easy if you just know how, obviously. And every single Sunday, I would go live, 8 p.m. on a Sunday. I just thought it's the perfect time. People are sort of gearing up for the next week. And so I used to put my makeup on, do all the thing, get ready, do the live. And I remember my husband, how many people watched? Well, no one watched this week, but the thing is about lives is they stay on the internet so people can catch up with them. And I'm sure, people probably catching up with them. Nobody watched again this week, but, I'm sure I've heard this thing as well that everyone gets a notification. So they might not watch it, but they still got a notification and probably had a thought about me in their brain. So that's got to be worth something. And I remember this went on for weeks and he was like, you literally put your makeup on and then take it off and no one's watching, Charlie. And I remember one week coming out of my office being like, 9 people watched.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant.
I literally felt like I'd made
it's
it.
like 900 equivalent. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's been worth it. Then it was 12 people. It was 15 people. And now, I stopped my Sunday night lives because I got to a certain level where I didn't need to do that. But I think at the end of me doing them, anywhere between 100 and 150 people joining live and thousands of people watching it over the week. And I would do different things, give out advice, do Q&As. And it built up. I find a lot of people don't have the staying power to get through that time where my husband's going, just maybe try something else.
Yeah,
this
just
isn't
give
working
up.
for you.
Yeah.
Other people would have gone, oh yeah, you're right. I'm too stubborn. I'm like, this will work.
And it's paid off in that space.
Yes.
What have been some of the other sort of successful strategies that you've seen your clients that you've worked with and coached through?
Yeah.
Sales obviously being the undermining piece or the big part of it. What else has worked for them when they're marketing their business?
You need that traction at the beginning, don't you?
The
for
momentum.
Somebody to be interested. And I used to do this thing called Working Mum Wednesday, where I'd share anybody on a Wednesday. And again, I gamified it. It became this big, massive game of bingo. I had 90 spaces each week, which fit in with my Instagram stories. So I would share everyone. And when you talk about cold pitching, and I absolutely hate cold pitching. I don't recommend doing it. But with that, I used to go into the hashtag like UK small business or whatever. And I would cold message people and say, hey, Kelly, on a Wednesday, I do this amazing thing where I share anybody. Do you want to be involved? And they would message back and like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That would be amazing. Yeah. They follow you, they join your group, later on they're buying. But it's finding that traction. One of my other clients does free power hours. So she gives away 5 free power hours per month. And she does, like, at the end of the call, she'll be like, I don't ask for anything in return. This isn't a sales pitch or anything, but if you've enjoyed the power hour, all I want you to do is just go onto social media and shout about it. Tell people that you love it. And they go and they give her a raving review because they've had loads of value. And then everybody wants these power hours. So then she's doing discovery calls and upselling them. And actually what we found is a lot of people who do the power hours then go on to buy.
Be clients.
Yeah, anyway. And it's like at the beginning of the month, the first day of the month, 5 spaces go free and everyone wants them.
Yeah.
Another lady who was a stylist actually, and this is a couple of years ago, but I thought it was great because it was almost like she was selling on a market, but she was on Facebook Live and she'd be like styling all these clothes and then saying, who I've got 10 of these scarves, who wants one? And people would be like, me in the comments. And then she'd just go and, give them the link to buy afterwards.
And buy the scarf and then, potentially get clients and everything that way.
And it's just that traction, like what can you do? And this is another thing, when we talk about the 2% club, everybody, we're all sheep. We're all doing, what's Kelly doing? I'm going to do what Kelly does because Kelly's successful and she's doing great. What's that person doing? I'm going to go and do, what are they not doing? Let's go and do something different. Let's go and be a spotty sheep over here because it's going to make you stand out and look better. So what can you do that's slightly different? I find everyone's doing the same thing, and free groups, lives, challenges, masterclasses.
Yeah, I've seen loads of challenges just now.
They all used to work, but then everyone's doing them and the market gets saturated, and you need to try something new that everybody isn't doing, because otherwise it's a bit much. Because it used to be really easy to get people onto discovery calls, for my clients. Come and do a half-hour discovery call, then upsell to them. But now everyone's doing discovery calls. So people are sheepish to even get on the call to find out about you because they know that they're just going to get sold to.
Yeah.
So you've got to think outside the box. What can you do differently?
There's also that aspect, I don't know, I'm sure you would find it, that people do something, get that traction, it works really well, then they start getting clients in, then they stop doing what they were doing to get the clients in, and then they're like, oh my, there's no business anymore, it's dried up. What's your thoughts on that?
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, what did you used to do to get the success? Go back and do it again, do it more, do it different, try new things, keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
And people, that's it, but they get, and then they forget, and then they think,
and I think sometimes it's like, oh, Kelly's doing really well and she doesn't seem to do anything. She just, does these reels where she changes outfits and she gets thousands of views. Like, how can I be more Kelly? Well, they're looking at your story right now. They're not seeing the hard work, the other businesses, the 20 years. They're not seeing any of that.
Yeah.
And I think this so often happens. If there is, even like Kylie Jenner or, some really famous influencer, Alex Hormozy, whoever is really successful has worked their arse off to get there. Yeah. Nobody is successful by accident. They've tried a bunch of stuff. They've failed. Richard Branson, perfect example. Nobody gets there by accident. But because we're looking at 10
years, 20 years.
Yeah, Kylie Jenner on a yacht.
Don't they say, don't compare your first chapter, compare your first chapter with your last chapter. There's a saying in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to think what it is.
Or compare your first chapter to someone else's chapter 20.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I think it's a difficult one. I don't want to put anyone off being in business, but it's really hard. Yeah. Like, anybody who goes into this thinking that it's easy, I think you've got to fall in love with the process. I sometimes think people want the yacht thing, but they aren't prepared to do the bit before the yacht.
Yeah, the 10 years to become an overnight success. And people are like, oh my God, you're just popping up everywhere. Yeah, but I've been doing this for the last 10, 15 years, which makes it a little bit more challenging. We talked about Alex Hormozy, his book. What are some other great sales books that you'd maybe suggest to people out there, apart from your own, which we'll put the link here for people?
Yeah, and my biggest problem is that there aren't a lot written by females, and there are so many great books out there. The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy is absolutely amazing. I love that book. But I just wish there were more by female authors.
What do you think it is with the whole, in your interpretation, woman, money, talking about it? Because you talk about money a lot,
all the time.
But people don't. Why don't? And how can you start talking about money for people that feel nervous about it?
I just think we need to normalise it for everyone. It's weird that we don't talk about money, isn't it? We talk about everything. Everything is out there. Weirdly enough, because I have enjoyed some of the money books. So Denise Duffield Thomas.
Oh yes, yeah.
Amanda Francis and Rachel Rodgers. We Should All Be Millionaires. That's a brilliant book. All three of those female authors all writing about money, but yet there's no one writing about sales. I almost think that somebody saying I'm great at sales, this is me, it's a very bold statement. And I feel like I get more nervous than most when I'm doing a live launch or something. So I live launch twice a year. And I'm just thinking everyone's eyes are on me being like, well, she says she's the sales expert. Let's see how she does. And it's quite exposing. So I feel like that's maybe why other females don't want that.
To do it.
But actually, I've had launches that have failed. And I've come out and I've spoken about them. And let's talk about personal branding. That's being your authentic self. Yeah. If you can come out and say, I tried this and it didn't work, as someone who brands themselves as a sales expert, people loved it. They absolutely loved it. I think it's scary. I think that as female business owners, we need to be a bit braver. We need to talk about money. I mean, I've got a little 7-year-old, and me and my husband have had this conversation a lot about the way that we grew up and the fact that we want him to know that money's available for him and that he can go out there and make as much money. There's no ceiling on him. He's 7. But, I think it's important that we have these conversations with kids as well, because I certainly didn't grow up with that knowledge.
Yeah, I think certainly that age group didn't. You talked about you have 2 launches a year. Do you launch the same product twice in 1 year? And why twice a year?
Yeah, so I mean, I love the sort of challenge launch. It just fills my adrenal glands with everything they need. That's what I have just always done. I've run something called the Sales Academy. So I launch that twice a year. We have 2 sort of enrollments of that. Now I also launch on behalf of other people as well, because I enjoy it. And this year, 2024, we're actually creating a sales agency. So my plan is to have the biggest female sales team in the UK. And you can sort of hire our sales team for your business, or we can train up your salespeople, or you can hire us just for launches. So that's what's going to be happening in the future.
I love that. And I think that maybe nicely kind of goes into collaborations and working with other people when it comes to sort of brand building, leveraging of other people's database and lists. I know that you do a lot of work with Lisa, who was also on the show just a few weeks ago. Maybe share a little bit about that as we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that me collaborating with Lisa is probably a surprise for a lot of people, because you might think from the outside that we're each other's competition. I mean, obviously she's further ahead than me in her business development. She's been doing it longer. But you might think, oh, well, we're fishing for the same clients, so to speak. But me and Lisa are very similar, and I think you're the same as us as well, Kelly, in that we don't see anyone as competition.
No, totally not.
It's just all about collaborating with like-minded people who've got a similar level of integrity, which, let's face it, sometimes on the internet is difficult to find.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I love it. I love collaborating with other business owners and, just sharing audiences, building audiences together. But me and Lisa have got a product now together called Kickstart the Mastermind. So, we help people who are sort of trying to make their first 6 figures get there faster. But I mean, being a business owner can be very lonely, can't it? So I think that's one of the reasons that I love collaborating as well, because it's less just all on you, but there's 2 of you in it together, or a group of you in it together. And I've really enjoyed that. And also, we're a product of the people we spend the most time with.
I love that. Brian Tracy quote, I think it is. Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that I'm spending my time with like really fantastic people. And again, I go to some of the sales conferences. I'm going to Grant Cardone's 10X this year in Miami.
And I did that a few years ago. Yeah. Wait, is it in Miami? Is it in the big, did it in a big kind of Super Bowl sports complex, and he had a load of great speakers when I was there. I actually really got a lot from it, and it was incredibly cheap to attend the which normally conferences are super expensive, and no one sold except for your ClickFunnels guy, Russell Brunson.
Yes,
but because often at sales or often at conferences they sell, but I actually really enjoyed it.
Oh, did you? That's good. But my problem is you go to a lot of the more salesy ones, and again, it's full of men.
Yes. But you need to be on stage speaking in the next one.
Yeah. Not that I hate men, just I've got a husband.
Side note.
My husband works in sales, men are great. And Brian Tracy, great book. Alex Hormozy, absolutely love him. Just let's get more females in the space as well.
Love that. Shall we wrap up with a few fun questions that are a little bit impromptu?
Okay, I'm nervous.
Don't be. It's all good. I've loved hearing a little bit more about your story. And now, because this will be because we didn't meet the first, because we actually met, or you met me at a conference, but not actually met. Then I spoke at your mastermind, which was here in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, which was amazing. And that was something that I thought was really important. You talked about it in the mastermind, that you always pay for speakers.
Yeah.
And people don't.
No, it really annoys me. And people expect you, can you speak in Scotland next week for free? No. I can't. But people expect it. And also because other people are doing it, they're setting precedents. Oh, well, if I have to pay for you, I'm going to go and find someone who's free. Whereas I just pay for all my speakers.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice isn't even the right word, but it's how business should be, I believe. I wish I could still get away with.
Oh, I wish I could still get away with. I don't know if I ever got away with anything. Wearing my pajamas all day?
Oh, do you love your comfits,
Yeah.
do you? I wish I could still get away with not having a hangover and feeling good the next morning. That would be mine, I'm telling you. If I could see into the future, I would want to know.
If I could see into the future, I would want to know that I have been successful in making female entrepreneurs as confident in sales as males.
I love that.
Right.
I wish I could spend more money on.
Chanel.
I love it. I saw you with, I think it was your Chanel sunglasses, was it, that you came
I
in
love
with?
Chanel.
Sipping your champagne on Emirates in the A380. Okay, let's do the last one. I'm most competitive when it comes to...
Selling. 100%.
I love it. Thank you so much for helping me co-create such a fabulous high energy episode. I really appreciate it. How can people find out about you?
So I am on Instagram at Charlie Day Sales. Also, come and join my free community on Facebook. Sales is easy if you just know how. And my website is charliedaysales.co.uk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you to travel counsellors for this episode. If you're inspired to start a business like many of the guests that you hear on the podcast, and the thought of planning a dream bucket list holiday lights you up, check out the details in the show notes.